Hey, welcome back to the Golf Podcast presented by Golficity. This is episode number 239. We're going to be talking about how to master the up and down, something that in our most recent video I was very proud of. Mike, you saw my up and down from that challenging little rough over the greenside bunker. Got that one up and down, and largely because of some of the stuff that we're going to talk about today.
That's right.
So, I mean, look, that's one of my favorite parts about this. If you're new to the show, we've said this a lot. You know, we are not pros. We are not instructors. We're just a couple of guys who love learning this game. And whatever we learn, we try to share it here because the idea is if it helps us improve, I'm sure it's going to help you guys listening improve. So we're going to try to dive into some of those tips in a moment. We also have a couple of really great listener shout outs that I want to get to, a couple cool things that came in via email and in the Facebook group, which guys, get in there, join the Facebook group. We'll link to it in the show notes. But it's free. You can go on Facebook, just search the Golf Podcast, Golficity, you'll find it. Really, really great group of listeners and us. We're in there just chatting throughout the week. So,
plus giving stuff away.
You're right.
Often.
We've got a couple of exclusive giveaways in there right now. So make sure you check that out. Speaking of giveaways, we've got another big one right now. We just dropped our shot scope vlog on the YouTube channel, which was fun. I didn't think we were going to get that round in, Mike.
Me neither. Yeah.
If anybody was following us on Instagram, in the story that we were running that day, you saw like the sideways driving rain. It was like that all throughout the night. And then we're watching the radar. We were supposed to tee off early at like 7 o'clock. We looked at the radar and the guy's like, listen, we think this thing's going to stop around 8:30. So the moment it stopped, we ran out there to play. Everything was soaked. But the nice part about it is the rain did stop. I didn't think it was going to happen, but it did stop. But I liked it. New York Country Club, great track. I want to get out there when it's not like a wet sponge and play it again. I'm sure we will. We may even get it out there and play it in the next couple of weeks. We talked about getting back there with the fall foliage and how beautiful it is there. So I want to do that. I know you play there a lot.
Yeah, I love it. It's local. And again, it's not private. It's got the name Country Club. We said that in the video, but a lot of people they don't book around because they feel it's private. It's semi-private.
I thought that when you first said, we're going to play New York Country Club, I'm like, who do you know? How did we get out there?
Yeah. Who do you know there? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But they do whack you, on the weekend. It's about $130 round.
Right.
So it is a pricey round, but it's a well-kept course, really awesome amenities, and we'll get out there and do a nice warmer round for sure.
It's true. I like all the staff there was really cool. You got that like warm feeling out of the whole situation. So just a great track. If you're in the Metro New York area, definitely it should be on your radar to check it out. But anyway, speaking of shot scope, we've been doing this new shot, the stat segment, which I've been having a ton of fun with, diving into our stats. That stat segment is presented by ShotScope. The ShotScope V2, it's the only GPS watch on the market that combines GPS distances to greens and hazards with that automatic performance tracking that we're all after. Essentially, it's a GPS plus performance tracking all in one watch. You wear the V2, you wear it just like a watch. You play your normal round. The magic, as we talked about in the video, it happens in the background. You don't need your phone. You don't need anything like that. You can leave the phone in the cart, the bag. You can leave it at home. Once you've got the course downloaded on the watch, it handles everything. And I love how it's all happening in the background. We've got all those stats, the ones we dive into here, because we're looking for areas where we can improve. And we'll get into those in a second. But just remember, for Golf Podcast listeners, you can get $40 off by visiting shotscope.com/golficity, or you can use coupon code Golficity at checkout. Let's dive into the stat segment, but don't forget, guys, we're giving one away too. So check out the YouTube video for all the details on how you can get involved in that. We're going to be giving that away in a couple weeks, calling out the winner, right?
Absolutely. So let's do it. Let's do our stat segment. It's a good time for it. This is the stat segment presented by ShotScope. Excuse me. I got mine charging up, Frank. I'm sneaking out there tomorrow, actually, for 18 holes. I got a 12:52 tee time. I'm playing with Sal from the Facebook group.
Very cool.
And he hits me up and he says, "Hey, Mike, I'm getting a vasectomy on Friday. I want one more round before I go in." So I said, man. You know what? I would love to go out there and play with you. We're friends growing up too. So it'll be a fun day. So I'm going to be using it out there. And I'm excited about these medals. I want to talk about these medals tonight. So let's talk about the medals that you earn on the app. And if you guys are confused, I mean, you think about, sometimes you earn bonus stars if you use Yelp. You earn different types of medals when you check into different restaurants. This is kind of the same thing, but as you achieve different things, and a lot of different things. That's what's cool. There's so many different achievements.
There's 500 different medals in here.
It's really cool. So let's break it down. Let's just look at the accuracy. Let's go in medals and look at accuracy. That's the first one there.
Okay.
Now, I'll just throw this question over to you. What is your highest fairways hit per round?
Okay, so just diving into that, my best is 7 fairways.
That's pretty sweet. So mine is as well. I earned all the way up to 7 fairway hit medal. That was actually at Sleepy Hollow. I hit 7 fairways that day.
Yep.
Was that yours too?
That was. And that's one thing I like. When you drill into the medal, you can immediately click view round, and that'll show you right where you earned it.
Yeah. So, I mean, for us, I know the TS drivers, they were on point that day. We were getting off the tee really, really nice. I love that. And here's some other good ones. Well, actually, you know what? While I'm toying around here, what are some of your favorite medals here?
Right above it, I like the distance one, and you unlock these as you go. So I unlocked the 200 yard, the 225, 250, 275 right now is my highest unlocked tee shot. But again, I click it, it'll take me right to the hole where that happened. So again, what I like about the medals, yes, it's a fun little side thing, but it really kind of like drives you to want to unlock these things, to go after new things. So yeah, of course the long ones are going to be great, but some of these other ones, when you go into like putting and short game, sand save, and then you can do that. You can get more medals. You get 2 sand saves, 3. There's up and downs, proximity to the hole. I actually earned the Texas wedge.
There you go.
I hold the putt from off the green. So again,
that's great.
Yeah, they're fun, but they also they serve as that little bit of motivation. So I enjoy doing them, and we showed you guys some of those medals in the most recent video. So a fun little aspect of using the app and using the program.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of the program all around. I like the watch. It works. This is a cool little segment that we do. So, let's go out there. Let's just keep earning those medals, Frank. We'll come back and keep talking about it because, like you said, there are so many of them. And as I'm just combing through them, I mean, literally, there's medals for anything. I mean, look at this. This is a cool one here. Broke 100, broke 90, broke 80, broke 85. Broke 50 on the front 9, broke 45, broke 40. So there's different little,
so there's one for every level, basically. And you can share them. So if if you guys are out there, if you're using it, share them in the Facebook group. We'd love to see some of those different accomplishments.
But you know what? This actually made me think of something because I wanted to get your opinion on this. We were talking about accuracy and fairways hit as our first medal. I'm playing a match on Friday, very important match. We're playing at Patriot Hills. You and I are going to get out there and play it pretty soon. It's a very, very tight fairway. It's got the tree lines that if you go in them, it's woods. It's not, the ball's not, you're not going to be able to escape it. Yeah. But you're so highly elevated on these tee boxes that with really good drives that you put in the fairway, I'm hitting the ball maybe 310, 320 with that.
With that elevation. Right.
So, the holes aren't long here, Frank. They're like 360, 350. So maybe that's just it. Would you play more irons off the tee at a place like this?
I would, because my confidence level with the driver, although it's coming back, and I played so well with the new TS at Sleepy.
Even highest confidence in your driver?
If I have my highest confidence, then I'm swinging it that day. But right now I'm like working on that. But what I'm saying is, if I don't need the distance, if you told me this track was playing 7,000 yards, then absolutely. But if it's tight and I'm already getting distance from elevation, and if I can with more accuracy, put my 4-iron out there 250 because of the elevation, leaves me.
Then you don't really need it.
But look, I've always said I'm always the guy who's going to sacrifice distance for accuracy. Sure. I've noticed, again, talking about diving into stats, we've talked about this for many episodes. My greens and regulation number goes way up when I hit the fairway. If my fairways are up, my greens and regulation are up because I'm not punching out from trees. I'm not having to do all types of finagling with distance control because I'm unsure if I'm going to get a flyer out of the rough or if it's going to be too thick and I'm going to have to club up or whatever. So I like to prioritize fairway and then, get my green and regulation and let the rest of the scoring just kind of fall into place. But that said, I'm a big proponent of not totally shying away from the driver. So, I think use it where it's going to be to your advantage, especially par 5s and things like that. But I think if you don't need to use it and for you, particularly if you're more accurate with another club, then I think by all means. But every person is different. You, Mike, on the other hand, you have a lot of control and confidence over your driver. So it might not be wise for you to club down to a club that you're not even, it may sound like a hybrid might be a good shot, but if you're not as confident with your hybrid or not as statistically accurate, there's no justifiable reason for you to club down. So it's a very personal decision in that regard.
And I was thinking that day to club way down, like 7-iron putter, 7-iron, that type of game. It's an important match. Lots of bragging rights.
Well, you know what I would say? If you can get there a little early, not like the day you forgot your clubs at Baltusrol and ran up to the thing. But if you get there a little early and put some range work in, see if your driver is working that day. See how it's feeling. And we've talked about this before. A great little thing that any of you guys can do when you're out there on the driving range is to kind of simulate the first hole mentally while you're on the range. Like think about what the tee shot looks like, where the fairway is, which way it goes, pick a target and mentally play through that hole, maybe hit driver and then hit whatever. And here in your case, Mike, you can see is driver working for me or am I a little bit more comfortable with something else? Yeah. Or, the other side, don't beat a dead horse. If you're out there in the first couple holes, the driver's not working for you, maybe you just do want to put a couple in play in the fairway and see if that approach works. But I am a proponent of mixing up your approach based on the track and how it's playing that day.
And this is why you have the life sentence of being my caddy.
That's right. Life sentence.
So thank you. I will report back next week and let you know how I do.
All right. So speaking of, the group and highlighting some of our listener stuff, there's a couple things I wanted to call out because it's just really, really great stuff. I love seeing this type of stuff. Mm-hmm. First one was an email that came in from Connor Mattingly. He said, I took your advice. Thank you. He said, I recently asked you guys about help with putting. And after listening to the podcast and practicing for a week, I played 9 holes this last Saturday. And the way I was putting, I should have played 18. Man, we know that feeling. He goes, I shot a 38 on a par 36 front 9 and avoided any 3 putts, including he had also 3 1 putts, and he made a putt from 6 feet off the green. So he says, keep up the quality content. Thank you, Connor.
Yeah, appreciate that, Connor. Thank you.
And that's what I love. I mean, I love when it works both ways. Like I said, we learn something, we work on it, we talk about it here, and then if you guys are able to pick up on that and it works for you too, man, that's the motivation. That's what motivates us. For what are we up to 200? What did I say? Episode 239. That's what motivates us to keep doing it, is that type of stuff. So, yeah, I mean, when you start to see that, that's really the game changer when it comes to scorecards, is how you're putting. When you can start to shave off just a couple of those 3 putts, man, you start to see the score work. It's great to see. The other thing was in the Facebook group just a couple hours ago before the recording of this, Avery Branscombe posted a video. I love this video, dude. I've watched this video like 5 times already. So he's got in the video, if I can describe it here, you can see he's kind of practicing and he's got a cup out on the lawn that he's chipping into. And he says, so after a couple hours of listening to Golficity, I was in the middle of a practice session and my daughter comes out and wants to join in. So after about 5 minutes, this happens. And I guess from off camera, his daughter hits one and holes out in the cup. And then they just kind of go nuts. And there's so many reasons I love this, because you and I both, you have 2 daughters, I have 2 daughters. And I love this when they see what you're doing and just kind of organically kind of get involved and they want to come and play and stuff like that. It's just so great. And it's so much fun to get them involved. And then when they see this success of something like that, it just motivates them to want to do it more. And this is how you get hooked on the game. But, really cool to see a little bit of fun, have, a little family success there. Avery, hat tip. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, man. I love it. I'm just watching it now.
Yeah.
It's great.
Really cool stuff. And thank you, by the way, for sharing that in the group. Like I said, that made my day. I said, that's the best thing I've seen all day. That was really cool stuff.
That's cool.
So really great. Okay. So we're going to talk about the up and down. You can save a lot more pars, obviously, if you can master this little area of the game. So that's going to be really important. But first, Mike, let's do a quick word from this week's sponsor.
Yeah, absolutely. So as always, we're proud to have Titleist as a key sponsor to the Golf Podcast. We finally both now received our TS drivers.
Yep.
Frank,
I held yours hostage for a day or two.
You did hold it hostage, but you did bring it during that Shots Go video. You did unveil it from your trunk, as you'll see in that video. So we had a lot of fun with that. I mean, I'm enjoying it. I mean, Titleist has really outdid themselves here, and honestly, I couldn't be more happier with that club. Current state of Mike's driver right now. I'm loving it.
Yeah, and that's why I held yours hostage, because Mike's showed up a couple days before mine did. So I'm like, no, I can't have you having this leg up on me. This thing's staying. Right. Yeah, I'm keeping this until. But it was only 2 days, so whatever. Yep. But anyway, I got as you guys saw in the video, I got 12 miles an hour ball speed and over 20 yards in total distance. And like you saw, in that video, it's just like how you had gotten more distance out of it. And I just really, I'm really loving how much noise Titleist is making with this TS line. You hear a lot of people talking about it. Not a bad word have I heard about it. Everybody seems to be picking up improvement. The Titleist, the golf club R&D team, they really found speed in every detail of this driver. And now they're ready for you guys out there to experience that Titleist speed. And you can do it all that very easily. You can get fit for one of these drivers and fairway metals at golf shops, courses nationwide. They're available. They're out there now for purchase. They're worth trying. And as always, you can read more on the TS line by going to Titleist.com. You can even schedule a fitting near you. So just check out their website. Find the closest fitter near you. Those Titleist Thursdays, man, that's the key. It's free.
That's the key.
If you can find one near you, just don't hesitate. Hit that up. And it's right there on that website. So check out Titleist.com for more of that. Okay. So let's talk about the up and down. It's so important to me. As you guys saw, I got up and down stamped on my new
Yes, you did.
60 because it just serves as that little mental reminder that I like focusing on one task at a time. I think part of what the frustration that people get with golf is you just your head is going in too many different directions. You're calculating what you need to shoot here to break your best score. And what do I've got going? I'm 2 over, and if I can maintain this and whatever it may be. And we think of the many holes at a time. We look at the score. I like to just piecemeal it down. Just think of one execution at a time. Like for instance, I might not be thinking, well, I got to make birdie on this hole just to make up for that double on the last hole. I try to get away from that thinking. Now I'm human. It happens. I think that way, but then I'll just try to shift my thinking and say, goal here, hit the fairway. Then the next goal here, hit the green. And then sometimes it doesn't happen. So that's when I'll set the goal of let's just get up and down. Just focus on getting up and down. Don't think about what happened. Don't think about any of that stuff. Just get up and down. And look, greens and regulation, we've said before, it's probably the number one indicator of how you're going to score. If you hit greens in regulation, it comes down to just putting, but you're going to be able to score really well. But the reality is we're not all going to hit every green in regulation. Even the PGA Tour pros don't. So if you can kind of learn this and if you can kind of master this, and I because this is one of those things you can kind of practice at home. You can practice your putting at home. I've been having a lot of success with the putt out mat and just working on my repetition. But even in your backyard, just practice some different chips, some different lies, some different, distances. You get a little chipping net, whatever it may be. But you can work on this. This is not something you have to go to the range to do. So you can carve out some time. And by the way, a master of this lately, and I've been loving watching the short game of our buddy, Francisco Molinari, who, by the way, wow, that Ryder Cup performance, unbelievable. Seriously. Could not be happier for him. Obviously we're rooting for the U.S. team.
Sure.
But if you ask me if I'm disappointed with the outcome of that Ryder Cup, no. It was so cool to see that team play together the way they did.
Yes,
unbelievable,
big time. I couldn't agree more. And I'm glad you said it because I want to say hats off to Molinari. I mean, he had the year of his career, and I honestly just don't know what it was that gave him the good year. I can't really think of it.
It was the juice.
It was the juice.
You gave me the juice. So great stuff. So, all right. So let's talk about the up and down. There's obviously two sides of that equation. The up is the chip or pitch shot, which you can hopefully get your ball on the green and tight enough to make the down a little bit easier. The down is that putt and being able to do it. So there's two sides of the equation. There's two very different things, chipping and putting. It's really working on mastering both of them. So the first step that you're going to do when you're trying to get your up and down skills is to really work on your technique with the wedges. You want to be able to strike those chip and pitch shots cleanly if you're really going to control the distance the ball travels. And I think here, this is very similar to putting in that way, where we talk about speed being the key, speed being the most important thing with putting. Distance, very similarly for chipping. If you can get your distance right, if you're errant by a little bit left or right, okay. But if your distance is right, that's where you're going to start to find yourself much closer to the pin. So some of the key fundamentals that you want to monitor are a steady head position, that get that body weight leaning slightly towards the target, and that you get your hands that move all the way through the shot. And I'm not going to go into every aspect of chipping and pitching because we've done so many episodes on it, and I'm sure we'll cover it again. By the way, go back through. If you haven't listened to some of those episodes, you can get every single episode free in the Golficity app. The Golficity app is free. You go to golficity.com/app. That'll give you the link to download it for Android or iOS and just skim through some of those. You can go right to the podcast icon, skim through some of those. You'll see where we've talked before about chipping and pitching. So there's a lot where we kind of dissect and go into that. Also, I think things like YouTube is great for that. There's a lot of great tips if you're a visual learner where you can kind of watch that. But the key is practicing it. So many golfers just fail to just really take the time to practice the chipping and pitching frequently. And we've talked before about feel, Mike.
That's
I think
right.
Feel, it comes from repetition and doing it. And distance control comes largely from feel, from getting used to different lies and different, playing different shots. As you do it more and more, it just becomes easier naturally.
Yes. And so two quick things, because, someone who's more of an amateur, they asked me this question the other day and I didn't really have a good answer for him. The up and down, is it only to save par? Can you up and down for birdie? Up and down, is it just mean getting up on the green and getting down in the hole no matter what the score will be?
Yeah.
Or are you up and down for par only? It's a par save.
Well, the thing is, I traditionally will think an up and down would be either a very short pitch or a chip and putt. So if you're thinking about for birdie, you would either have to almost drive the green, or on a par 5, you'd have to almost hit the green in 2.
So that was the example that we had. We tried to drive a short par 4. We went into a greenside bunker. We can up and down for birdie.
You could up and down for birdie, yeah.
Okay, so it's valid for that. Okay,
yeah.
My other point was the reason why I love this topic is because us as amateurs, we don't hit every green. In fact, we don't hit many greens.
Right.
According to the shot scope, I'm looking at mine now, and I may hit 3, 4, 5 greens a round.
Yeah.
So up and down is pretty much the norm.
Yeah,
save par.
Look, right now, my highest award is 4 greens in regulation.
There you go.
So it just shows you, and in that round when I played well, for me, it's sleepy. I played well. I think I shot, an 84 there.
Yes.
With only 4 greens in regulation. So working on this up and down really has helped my game.
Big time.
So it really helps you save you there. But it's really important, like I said, practicing it. Another thing is there's strategy, there's the planning phase, and then there's execution. We talk about that a lot. So strategy is coming down to playing a smart, target, things like that. And one part of that is really giving yourself a fighting chance. You've heard us talk before about the short side, and this is something that professional golfers really consider a lot. They'll look for the short side and they'll make sure to play it to the smart way. They're not always just pin seeking. So the short side of the green, if you haven't heard us use that term, that's the side of the green where the hole is located. So if you miss your approach shot on the short shot side, you're not going to have as much room to work with for chipping and putting. I think for me, again, going back to that, like one goal at a time, with any of my chips and close pitches, my goal, generally speaking, even more so than getting it close, is getting it on the putting surface. Right. Because nobody likes to have to chip twice, right? But I think this happens often when you're going for that short side and maybe there's not a lot of green to work with. So let's say you're looking at the green, the pin is on the right, and it's tucked all the way to the right where there's only maybe 5 feet of green to the right of it and there's 20 feet of green to the left of it. So if you miss on that short side, there's a very good chance it's going to trickle off the green and you're going to end up with another chip. So that's where I will pick a smarter target of the not shooting for the short side, so that I know that I've got more green and more room for error, that if I miss, I'll be able to still save on that green, and I'll still have a better chance with a putt. So it's inevitable you're going to hit that short side from time to time, but if you can do your best to play smart for that wider side of the green, especially on the tougher approach shots, when you do miss, you give yourself a better chance of still being on the dance floor.
Yeah, I love it.
So it's solid. Yeah, that's a smart one. Keep that in mind. Another bit of strategy, in addition to playing to the wide side, which is the opposite of the short side, is to do yourself a favor and play on the low side. Remember, we've talked about before in some of our putting tips, putting uphill is always going to be a little bit easier than downhill because you can get a little bit more aggressive with it. So what this leads to is me saying, basically, before you even bust out the putter, you should already be reading the green. You should be reading it as you're approaching it, especially chip shots, short pitches. Take a look at the basic layout of the green. I go back to it often because I really like that tip that we got when we were in Florida from one of the putting coaches, which he said, just visualize, because all greens are designed to run for the water to run off for drainage, right? So he says, picture if it was pouring rain, which way the water would run, which gave me actually a funny, inspired idea. I don't know if you'd be like the craziest guy ever to be doing this, like a true golf nerd here, but it was pouring rain the other day and I drove by the course that I usually play. And I'm like, I'd be that guy to go out there with an umbrella and like walk the course in the pouring rain and just watch the rain and just pick up on all the different runoffs and everything like that you can now
mark them off in your book.
Right. Mark them off. Right. What is this guy doing?
Yeah, we got the Bryson DeChambeau of Orange County.
Right, spritzing the golf ball. Everything. But anyway, like you can kind of visualize that. So if you favor that low side of the hole when you're chipping, you're most likely to be left with an uphill putt to save your par. And there you can get more aggressive, especially when you're trying to save your par. You can get a little bit more aggressive with that putt and not have to worry about it being, running down past the cup and away. So when given that option of like, let's say a uphill an uphill 3-footer for par, or a slippery downhill putt of about that same distance, I'm going to take the uphill putt all day. So you can give yourself that smart leave by looking at that green and saying, okay, I'm going to err a little bit on the wide side, and I'm going to err for leaving it. Let's say the green is pitched towards you. I'm going to err for leaving it a little bit short, if anything. And then if I get my distance wrong, it's going to be short. So that way I can putt uphill and I know I'll be on the green. So that's an important thing. So now we that strategy, going back to execution, an important part of this, practice variety. You've really got to, when you get that challenge of getting up and down, you need to learn to deal with a variety of different situations. And this is where you see better golfers or golfers who play more often. Generally, it's largely because people who play more often encounter more situations that you then learn from and become used to and things like that. I mean, raise your hand if you're guilty, so to speak, of all of your chipping practice. It happens before you tee off at the putting, area, the putting practice green, and every time you're chipping from the same exact lie, right? I mean, we do it so many times. You need to like really vary that. Work on some flat lies on the fairway length grass, work on some deep lies in, grass growing in different directions, because you're going to face all of that when you're out there. So the best way to learn to deal with that variety of situations around the green is to practice them. So rather than just going out there and dropping a bunch of balls in that flat patch of closely mown turf right there in the practice facility, try to hit some shots from many different positions as possible. And, go ahead, hit some chip shots from a good lie, but give yourself those challenging ones too. I know the good lie ones are kind of those confidence builders.
Right.
It's like I talk about when I'm putting and warming up before a round, the last couple of putts are not long bombs. I hit a couple of 3-footers and just make sure to sink them. That just kind of locks in that confidence of feeling it going in the hole. I like to do that with chipping too. My last couple of chips, I may practice some real challenging ones, especially to me, man. No chip challenges me more than a downhill lie, in the rough. And, which actually, when we had that playing lesson with Kevin Sprecher, I was telling him that. I'm like, listen, while we're out here, help me with this. And he actually helped me with moving the ball forward a little bit and shifting my weight
more
forward.
Shift weight. Yep.
Because I was thinking, okay, if my weight is naturally falling downhill, I would fight it and like kind of lean back up the hill. But he's like, no, just kind of let yourself go with the slope. And that's been a big help for me. But man, I can't tell you how many sculled shots I've had from there.
It's a tough shot.
That is a tough shot. But it's going to be tough if you don't practice it. So
yeah, you're absolutely right, man. Especially on the first hole of your course, if you overshoot that green, I've been up on that hill trying to chip down to it. It's brutal.
It is brutal because it's like it's this huge like valley, and then it goes elevated green, big valley, elevated mound behind it. So if you're in that mound behind it, you're going downhill, but then right back uphill again.
So it's the perfect point, practice variety, because I don't normally practice those types of shots.
Right. And then when you're faced with them, it's no wonder you don't know how to hit them.
Yeah, it's just, close your eyes and pray.
Right. So you got to work on those. Another important thing here is, taking a mental reset. There's a physical component to the challenge of getting the ball up and down, but there's also a mental component as well. You can't ignore that. I said the game works together, the physical and the mental, right? So when you miss the green with the approach shot, chances are you're going to be frustrated going into this shot. I mean, this is a shot that a lot of people, you're already like kind of off your game mentally because you're mad you didn't hit the green. So, if it was an easy shot that you let get away, you're going to be even more angry. How many times have we've had it where like, you quote, screw up a great drive, right? We're in the middle of the fairway, we bombed one, and then we've got a nice wedge into the green and we do something wrong. For me, I probably would push it left. That's what I do sometimes when I miss. Push it left to the green. You're going to walk up to this, you're going to be a little bit angry. You got to be able to get those emotions under control. You don't want to allow that to impact your ability to get the ball up and down. So use that time between hitting shots, between the approach shot and the chip shot to settle down. Regain your composure, refocus. And a big part of that is, like I said, facing it one thing at a time. Forget what just happened. Just shift into this mode where it's just to say like, I'm just focusing on the execution here. And that can be and another thing too is that pre-shot routine. If you can really just let yourself go into that and the mechanics of that pre-shot routine, or for me, a part of my pre-shot routine is a deep breath. Just take a deep breath, just let that out, regain that composure, and then walk up to that ball with a plan to make your chip or pitch shot, and the rest can be just kind of a distant memory. And where you really learn this, Mike, is when you're beat by it, right? We've all had this too. I've had it where your playing partner, you think you're on the green, you've got your green in regulation, you're standing up there with your putter, right? And you're like, I got this guy on this hole, right? Maybe you're playing for skins or something like that. And he's off the green and has to up and down it. And then all of a sudden he makes a killer chip shot, puts it in tight and taps it in. And now you've got to, two putt or whatever, just to tie him. Right. Or you've got to make your long bird, to beat him. Yeah, that's something. So you learn from it. So it just shows you can come back. That's what the up and down's all about. So knowing you have that ability, it's going to do wonders for your golf game. That's the other side of this. I remember back in our chipping episode, I talked about how when I spent a couple weeks focusing on my chipping, and when my chipping started to improve, I noticed that my approach shots also improved because I could get a little bit more aggressive. I was a little bit less nervous over the ball with my approach shots because in my back of my mind, I was like, I can rely on my chip if I don't hit the screen. So same deal here. If you feel like you can kind of get really adept at different up and down situations through practice and through planning and things like that, you're going to find that you can get a lot more aggressive going after greens because you're going to be like, no worries. I've been here before. I can up and down from here. And as you're able to just kind of let it go, like just swing free, you'd be surprised how many more greens you end up hitting in a funny way, not needing the up and down. Right. But because you have it, it's in the arsenal, it changes everything.
It does change everything. And that's the reason why, you and I, like you mentioned it before, I think you hit 4 greens at Sleepy and you ended up with an 84. It shows that you know how to scramble, you know how to up and down, and you know how to score. So you have the confidence. And I love that because I consider right now my chip or short or up and down game, so to speak, pretty strong. I mean, that's my saving grace. I don't hit every green. I just said that. And I know most of the time, probably 75% of the round, I am not going to hit the green in regulation. Unfortunately, I'm just not that accurate yet. I don't have that deadly accuracy. Yeah. I don't have tour level accuracy. A lot of us don't. It's hard to hit green, especially when you're 175, 180, 150, 130. It's a tough shot. So I don't hang my head on those. It does, stink not to hit that green, but walking up to there with that swagger, like, okay, I got this. I have this 60 degree. I'll tuck it in close. Boom, par. Move on to the next hole. Then I just played that hole really, really well. I have a 4. I'm even par. Boom, next hole. Nothing wrong with that, right, Frank?
Nothing wrong with that. Hey, and look, going really quickly back to these medals again in the shot scope. Mm-hmm. We talked about how I only hit 4 greens in regulation that day. Well, I also set my record that day for most up and downs with 5. 5 up and downs medal. I earned the 5 up and downs medal that day.
What is it on short game? Here it is.
Yeah, that's under short game. So you go through the medals 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
I only have 3.
But shows you what that does to the score.
But I love seeing that.
If you can up and down 5 times, I mean that's 5 saves. Huge. No wonder that was probably my best round of the year. Yeah. So again, it's important. And as you get, like I said, you get that confidence, you'll be surprised at how you're able to attack more greens.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. I love hearing that.
So really good stuff. Guys, again, thank you everybody who emailed us, wrote in the podcast group, or now that we've got the podcast, we're putting more of our episodes on YouTube. Anybody who comments in the comments, thank you all for sharing some of your own results, some of the things like that. I love the videos you guys are posting in the Facebook group. Keep that coming. We love seeing it. Like I said, it's great to be able to see some of the stuff that we're talking about here, and if it's helping you guys out there. Plus, if there's other things you want to hear, if there's other things you want us to talk about, let us know. Post them in the Facebook group. Even if it's something we've talked about before on the show, we may, just for the immediate satisfaction of it, so you can get to work on it, we may refer you to an old episode where we spoke about it. But we're always making those notes where we may revisit things because we learn as we go too. So just because we chatted about something here on the podcast 2 years ago, we're different golfers now than we were 2 years ago. So we may jump in and revisit it. I think in the next couple of months, we're going to be revisiting some of our older topics and just kind of like talking about what we learned then, now versus then. So a huge part, in other words, of this is the feedback that we get from you guys. So wherever you're seeing this or listening to this podcast, make sure you let us know. You can leave us those reviews on iTunes, all those types of things. We look at every bit of that, and we appreciate every bit of that. So
yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And I wanted to throw this in at the very end because I failed to mention this at the top of the show. But I looked today, according to my gin, we're closing in on the cold weather season here in the Northeast. So we're about to wrap it up, unfortunately. But Frank, I shaved 3.1 off my handicap since the start of the season.
Wow.
So I was a 16.2 down to a 13.1, getting fitted for clubs, playing clubs that fit my game, having more confidence, doing this endeavor with you week in and week out, all that stuff tied together. And let me tell you, the reason I'm mentioning this is not to brag or gloat, but just to show you guys that it can happen, man. It can happen. You just keep putting the work in. We have busy lives. Like you said, we have kids, we have work, we have a lot of stuff, but we get the work in where we can, and we practice the stuff that matters. Practice the stuff that matters. The holes in your game, you'll get there too.
Right. Like I said, we're not a couple of scratch golfers. We're guys who are on that chase too. We're chasing better. So we're right along with you guys. We're working on getting our handicaps down. So
big time.
Great stuff. So keep sharing your progress. Let us know. You can get to all the show notes of what we talk about today by going to golficity.com/episode 239, or you can visit the show notes in the Golficity app. And we'll see everybody again next week.